Okay, so welcome to the deep dive, and today we have something really exciting, a piece of English learning material that you, our listeners, actually sent to us.
That's right. It's a whole podcast episode from Fluent English Lab, and it's made specifically for people learning English, aiming for that B1 level.
Yeah, B1, so intermediate level. You're not a total beginner anymore. You've got some basics down, but you're ready to level up.
Exactly. And what's so cool about this resource and why we wanted to do a deep dive on it is that it goes way deeper than a lot of learning materials. It's not just about summarizing what's there. It's about pulling out the really useful stuff, like the actual strategies and practical tips that can help you listening right now in your English learning journey, no matter where you're at.
I love that. And when you say deeper, think about this. This one episode, just one, packs in over 10,000 words of English.
That's a lot of English.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a massive dose of immersion, but it's not just throwing words at you randomly. It's really well structured. You've got real life dialogues, vocabulary work, grammar explanations, little quizzes to check your understanding, and the most important thing, a lot of prompts to actually get you speaking. So it's like a full workout for your English.
It is. You get to listen, read, understand, and then actually practice speaking. It's a very well-rounded approach.
Okay, so let's dive into the first chapter, Small Talk and Daily Life. This is where they kick things off, and I think it's a brilliant place to start because, let's be honest, small talk can be kind of scary for English learners.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're just trying to be casual and friendly, but it can feel like there are so many unwritten rules.
Totally. But this chapter jumps right in with a really relatable situation. Two roommates, Alice and Tom, having a quick chat in the morning.
And we get to listen in on a snippet of their conversation. Alice says, "Good morning, Tom. Did you sleep well?" And Tom replies, "Morning, Alice. Yeah, I slept okay. What about you?"
Nice and simple.
And then Alice says, "I slept like a baby." Now, this is a great example of a common English idiom.
Oh, yeah. Idioms. Those can be tricky.
They can be, but they're also really fun once you start to get them, because an idiom, remember, is a phrase where the meaning of the whole phrase is different from the literal meanings of the individual words.
Right. So you can't just translate each word directly. You have to understand the overall meaning.
Exactly. So slept like a baby doesn't actually mean Alice was sleeping in a crib, sucking her thumb. It means she slept very deeply and peacefully.
Got it.
And what I really like about this chapter is that they don't just drop the idiom on you and move on. They break down the vocabulary from the whole interaction really clearly. Slept well, like a baby, a bit of. They're pointing out these key building blocks within a very natural context.
So you're not just learning random words. You're seeing how they're actually used in a real conversation.
Right. And then right after that, they hit you with a speaking prompt. Boom. What is your morning routine? And to help you get started, they even give you some suggested vocabulary. Coffee, wake up, get dressed, breakfast.
I love that because it's forcing you to actually use the language you just heard, not just passively listen to it.
It's pushing you to do that active recall and application, which is so crucial for making the language stick.
Mm-hmm.
And they also throw in a quick quiz asking you to define slept like a baby. It's a low-stakes way to check your understanding right there and reinforce what you've learned.
Makes sense. So what's the key insight for us as learners from this first chapter?
I think it's this. Notice how native speakers often use these short, almost like formulaic questions and responses to start and keep small talk going.
Yeah, like little conversational building blocks.
Exactly. So if you can learn and actively practice these little building blocks, you'll be so much more confident starting those everyday conversations. You don't have to be witty or come up with something super original. Just start with the basics.
Love that. Okay,
Yeah.
Chapter 2 then takes us into a super practical area. Going shopping and ordering food. I mean, these are things that everyone does, right?
It's essential vocabulary for navigating the world. And this chapter tackles it really smartly by presenting two dialogues, one at a grocery store and another when someone's ordering food at a restaurant. So you get exposure to both of those common situations.
Right. And they keep it really concise and focused. Like in the grocery store conversation, the clerk greets the customer and says, "Hello, Can I help you find something?
Mm-hmm.
And then the customer is looking for pasta and fresh tomatoes. Simple, clear, and they naturally introduce vocabulary that's specific to the grocery store, like produce section and aisle.
It's all about giving you those essential words and phrases without overwhelming you. And again, what's important is that they're not just listing out vocabulary, you're seeing it used in a real interaction. So you understand the context, how it flows naturally.
Yeah, it's so much easier to remember words when you see them in action.
Right. And in the restaurant dialogue, they focus on that key phrase, "I'd like," for ordering. It's a polite and direct way to get what you want without being overly formal.
So useful. And like in the previous chapter, there's a speaking prompt right after. This time it's, describe your last visit to a supermarket. So you're immediately encouraged to think back, retrieve that vocabulary you just heard, and maybe even use some of those phrases in your own little story.
It's all about practice, practice, practice. So for you listening, the big takeaway here is that you need to arm yourself with the specific language for these everyday transactions and then rehearse those scenarios in your head, even if you're not actually in a shop or a restaurant.
It's like mental practice. You're preparing yourself. All right, chapter 3 then shifts gears to talking about the past. And this is where they really zero in on the past simple tense.
One of the cornerstones of English grammar. And I really like how they introduce it here through a little story called A Trip to the Beach. It's a personal account of someone's day, which makes it relatable, and it's packed with verbs in the past simple tense.
Yeah, it's like you're listening to someone telling you about their vacation. And as they describe what they did, went to the beach, brought a picnic, swam in the sea, played volleyball. You're hearing all these past simple forms in action.
It's so much more effective than just memorizing verb conjugations in a table. You're seeing the grammar working naturally in a real story. And what's really smart is that after the story, they actually highlight those past simple forms. Go became went, bring became brought, and so on. They're explicitly making that connection between the story and the grammar rules.
I get it. You hear the story first, then you see the grammar points being pulled out and explained.
And then to really drive it home, they give you some really direct practice sentences like, I ate lunch at 1 p.m. and she visited her grandmother last weekend. It's all about solidifying that correct usage of the past simple in different contexts.
I love those simple examples because sometimes grammar explanations can be really confusing and make your head spin.
For sure. And then, as always, there's a speaking prompt to get you practicing. Talk about your last holiday. They even suggest using specific verbs like went, ate, saw, enjoyed, and bought. So it's guiding you to use those past simple forms actively.
It's like they're holding your hand as you learn and practice.
In a good way. So for our listeners, I think the key insight here is that you don't have to be afraid of grammar. When it's presented in a clear and contextualized way, it can actually make your life easier because you'll understand how to express yourself more accurately and confidently.
So true. Okay, chapter 4, we're moving on to describing people, places, and feelings. This is all about using adjective to add that extra layer of detail and interest to your English.
Because adjectives are what really bring your language to life. And this chapter shows you how to do that effectively through a dialogue between two friends, Sasha and Nick, who are describing the city of Barcelona. You can just hear their excitement as they talk.
And they're using such vivid adjectives. Colorful, full of life, friendly, delicious when they're talking about the food. Crowded, but in a good way. You can just picture the city as they're talking.
That's the power of descriptive language. And the speaking prompt that follows is brilliant. Describe your favorite place. Use at least 5 adjectives. I mean, it's a simple task, but it really pushes you to think about those descriptive words and how to use them effectively.
It's making you think about the details, the sights, the sounds, the smells even.
And it's reminding you that language isn't just about conveying information, it's about painting a picture, creating an experience for your listener. So the key takeaway here for you is to think about how you can enhance your ability to describe things to make your English more colorful and interesting.
Don't be afraid to get descriptive. Okay, chapter 5 tackles a big one, phone calls and work conversations. This can be really nerve-wracking for a lot of English learners because the language is often a bit more formal, and there's that added pressure of speaking on the phone.
Yeah, you can't rely on body language or facial expressions to help you communicate. So this chapter gives you some really crucial tools to navigate those situations successfully. And they do it by presenting a sample business call between a receptionist and someone calling the company.
It's short and to the point, but you get to hear and learn those essential phrases. May I speak to? One moment, please. I'll transfer your call. Those polite and efficient phrases that are so common in a professional context.
It's giving you that script, those go-to phrases that you can use confidently in a real situation. And the speaking prompt is brilliant because it puts you right in the hot seat. Practice making a call to a company. Imagine you're asking about a job interview.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a high-stakes situation, and it forces you to use those phrases you just learned in a realistic context. So the insight here is that learning specific, often formulaic phrases is really helpful for workplace communication because it gives you that fluency and confidence.
You sound more professional, and you don't have to worry about making mistakes with grammar or word choice. Okay, we're getting close to the end. Chapter 6 dives into expressing opinions and giving advice. These are such valuable conversational skills, whether you're at work, with friends, or just chatting with someone new.
It's about going beyond just basic communication and actually engaging in a meaningful exchange of ideas.
Right. So they start off with a dialogue where two people, Anna and Paul, are talking about a movie they saw. It's a great example of how to express your opinions, both positive and negative, in a polite and respectful way.
Yeah, like Anna says, I think it was amazing. And Paul's not so keen. He says, in my opinion, it was a bit boring. So you see how to use those phrases to frame your opinion. And they also use adjectives like amazing, boring, okay to actually evaluate the movie.
It's showing you how to actually participate in a discussion, how to agree or disagree without being rude.
And then the chapter moves on to the art of giving advice. They give you some really useful phrases for this. You should. Why don't you? I think it's a good idea, too. So you're getting those structures that you can use to offer suggestions or help someone who's maybe looking for advice.
Yeah, like if a friend is having a problem, you can use those phrases to offer your support or ideas.
And the speaking prompt is really fun because it's give advice to a friend who is tired. What can they do? So you have to put yourself in that situation and use those phrases to offer practical advice.
I like that. Okay,
Yeah.
Almost there. Chapter 7 is the real-life listening test. This is where things get serious.
It's time to put your listening skills to the test in a more realistic scenario.
So they have a longer audio monologue by a woman named Claire, who's a nurse, and she describes a day in my life. She talks about waking up super early at 5 a.m., starting work at 7 a.m., and she also talks about her feelings about her job, how she finds it challenging but rewarding.
It's a great example of a longer piece of spoken English where you have to really focus to catch all the details. And just like a real listening test, they have specific questions afterwards. What is Claire's job? What time does she start work? Does she enjoy her job? So you have to listen carefully for both the main idea and those specific details.
Yeah, it's training your ear to really pick up on those key pieces of information.
Okay.
And for you listening, the big takeaway here is that you need to practice listening for both the big picture and the smaller details. Don't just zone out halfway through. Stay focused.
Absolutely. And finally, we arrive at Chapter 8, the Speaking Practice Challenge. This is where everything comes together, and it's time to really put your speaking skills into action.
It's the grand finale.
And they really push you here.
Yeah.
The challenge is divided into 3 parts: talking about yourself, describing your daily routine, and telling a story about a past event.
So it's covering a lot of ground.
It is. And the prompts are really well designed. Like in part 1, you have those classic self-introduction questions. What is your name? Where do you live? What do you like doing in your free time?
Those are the essentials.
Right. So you have to be able to answer those confidently. Then in part 2, it moves to your daily routine. What do you do every day? What time do you wake up? What do you eat for lunch? So it's getting you to talk about your everyday life in English.
That makes sense. And then part 3 is where you had to level up your storytelling skills.
Exactly. The prompts are, tell a story about your last birthday, a time you felt proud, a memory from school. So you have to think back, use past tenses, descriptive language, and really create a narrative that someone would want to listen to.
Yeah, you're flexing those creative muscles as well.
And the real insight here is that consistent speaking practice across different topics is absolutely key to improving your fluency and confidence.
Practice makes perfect, or at least it makes progress.
Exactly. And I think it's so smart how they structured this challenge, starting with those simpler personal topics and then building up to more complex storytelling. It's like scaffolding. It's helping you build your skills gradually.
Okay, so as we come to the end of this deep dive into this Fluent English Lab episode, I think it's clear that it's a really well-designed resource.
Yeah.
It's packed with content, it's well-structured, and it really encourages active learning, which is what we're all about.
I totally agree. It's not just about passive listening. It's about getting you to actually use the language in all these different ways. And I think the biggest takeaway for anyone listening, whether you're aiming for B1 or any other level, is that consistent exposure, active practice, and focusing on gradual progress, not perfection, are the keys to success.
So true. And this episode really showcases how immersion, when combined with structured learning and practice activities, can really accelerate your language learning journey.
Absolutely. So here's something to think about, a little challenge for you. How can you incorporate more structured listening and speaking practice into your own routine?
Yeah, maybe take some inspiration from this Fluent English Lab episode. Think about what really resonated with you. The small talk formulas, the way they taught grammar through stories, that speaking practice challenge. What can you take away and apply to your own learning?
It's all about finding what works for you and being consistent.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today's deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.